While the hosts of Sisters in Arms have taken every precaution to ensure that the content of this program is both current and accurate, errors can occur. The hosts assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omission in the content of this program.
The information contained in this program is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantee of completeness or accuracy. The opinions of the guests are not necessarily the same as the hosts.
Welcome to Sisters in Arms. I'm Kerrie Claire.
And I'm Renee Gagne. Together we serve as a Second Amendment resource for our communities.
And we have a very special guest today. We're going to go into why, but Rep X, I'm so glad you're here. If you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what you represent, who you represent, what
Absolutely.
district?
I'm proud to be here. Thank you, ladies. I'm born and raised in New Bedford. So I was a city kid growing up in a three-decker. We had the second floor. I graduated from New Bedford High School, and I wanted to be a police officer.
Wow.
So I went to Cape Cod Community College because my aunt, Froso, lived on the Cape and said, Tiger, that was my nickname.
Tiger?
Still is, yeah. Tiger, you come and live with me.
Aww.
And you can go to school there. No one in my family had ever been to college. And I drove my Pinto to the Cape with a full head of hair and a mustache in 1976.
Wow.
Right, and went to Cape Cod Community College and got my associate's degree.
That's
and
great.
Became a summer officer, like a lot of people have back in those days, and then became a full-time officer, a detective, a school resource officer, a sergeant, a lieutenant, deputy chief.
Wow.
So I've served as a police officer
you worked
for
your way
40
up.
years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
So you've seen a lot of change in those decades.
I have.
Sure.
Yeah. Some for the better. You know, technology, equipment is better, and many things are for the worse. And the kind of the breakdown of law and order is bad for all of us. So, you know, as a police officer, I guess I was born and raised to serve. And protect. There's something in me that wants to protect. So policing was perfect. And then when a tragedy happened to my department and my brothers and sisters in blue, when Sean Gannon was shot and killed, I couldn't stand it. And I ran for office to make a difference. And that's how we met.
And I'm so glad you did, because you
I
are
am
making
too.
a huge difference. You really are.
It's a big machine, and it's not just me, but no, having good people serving others from the heart is what we need.
And that's how you ended up on the show today, because we don't typically, you're our first legislator.
Wow.
We wanted to make sure that this show was about education and not so much a political debate or that type of thing, because
Yes.
there's plenty of shows out there that do that, and we didn't want to be that show.
Good.
But you have so many facets about you that you had to come on the show. We needed you here. There's so much education that you have to offer, and we're
Yes.
excited to have you. Thank you so much. You hold a special place in my heart, because when we went through the listening tour, you were the first legislator to approach us, and it was at Cape Cod Community College,
Yes.
which is
Where I graduated,
Exactly.
yes.
So it's kind of funny. There's so many things about it that just, it was all meant to be.
Yes,
I think.
I find that a lot. And sometimes I'll say it's my son Nick guiding us,
Yeah.
or Sean, you know.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. There's a
Right.
bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And overcoming tragedy and seeing the bigger picture with faith and family and
Right.
doing the right thing.
Right.
Can we?
And the listening tour, I think, was so important too for us, because it was our first listening tour. And
really?
Yeah, that was the
Okay.
first time. That was the first listening tour. That was the first time speaking, and like
Right.
it was everything. Everything was like the first.
I
And-
haven't seen you since then.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I wanted to thank you,
Oh.
because for me, I hear about the red shirts, Moms Demand Action, and I don't like to make a decision about someone or an entity until I actually have a type of conversation with them.
That's good.
And everything I heard was true, sadly. And you were there. I mean, I left that listening tour, I kind of felt defeated until I met you in the lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you kind of turned it around for us, and
It was so
gave me
important that
hope
you
to
came up and you
continue.
said, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you girls are here.
Yes.
You did a great job," and
Yes.
it really,
I didn't know
Make us-
how it affected you.
oh, it totally did.
But
because
typically, there's not the other side of an issue. It's one side.
Right.
So that's why it's important to educate.
Well, you
Right.
didn't know who the teal shirts were, right?
No,
'Cause that
I
was
did
like
not.
our
You're like,
big,
"Who's this?"
Yeah,
Yes.
it was like our big day, first day out,
I
right?
had
Yeah,
no idea.
really.
Right.
Even till today.
No?
That was your
Oh,
first. No.
yeah.
Yes.
Because you had confidence. I could
And,
see.
well, my gosh, we were shaking like a leaf.
Well,
We were
we're
so
comfortable
nervous.
educating because that's what we are as
Right.
pistol instructors, and Kerrie is with Gun Owners Action League now, so she's used to being with, having that teaching role. But to advocate in front of people that don't agree with
nerve-wracking.
what you're saying, that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yes, but stick to who you are, right? You're a teacher, educator. Like with me, right? I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant. That comes natural. A leader. And when it gets tough, I just always go with my heart
Right.
and stay true to that.
And that's so important.
It
And,
is. I
let's
see
talk-
that with you as well.
Oh, thank you. Let's talk about Sean a little bit, because I'm sure there's probably a lot of viewers that have not necessarily heard of the story, because it was how long ago?
April 12th, 2018.
Wow.
So almost 6 years ago.
Wow.
I was the deputy chief of police in Yarmouth in my 39th year.
Wow.
And that's a horrible day in my life, And for many of us on Cape Cod, we were tasked with getting a violent criminal who had 125 prior charges on his Massachusetts record. Remember, when you do a Corey check, it's only Massachusetts. They could have crimes in other states, it doesn't show up. So I'll never say his name. He's nothing to me, but we call him 125. So it was my officers that had to go find this guy who was wanted, and we knew he was dangerous because we've dealt with him many times, and that's what happened on that day. We started at around noon. I sent 7 police officers, a team of experts in finding people, state police, Barnstable police, Yarmouth police, that's what they do. And they left my office around 12:30 to do their job. And then around 3 o'clock that day, I just heard them screaming on the radio, And I knew something bad happened, and I drove to that spot as fast as I could and saw the look of just horror in my officer's eyes, What had happened was Sean and the team had gone to this house where they had a tip that this horrible criminal was hiding. And they searched the house from basement to attic and back and never found him. And they were going to leave. And Sean, who was my brother officer, a 32-year-old, handsome, married, wonderful, God-loving person from New Bedford, like me. We would work out together and kind of talk about New Bedford. Of course, he's a lot younger, but he was the future of policing. And he said to the team, I need to go back in the attic with Nero, the dog, because I couldn't see the whole attic. So they were lifted back up. It's no stairs, it's just a crawl space. And 3 officers went back in the attic with Nero, and that violent person was hiding and shot Sean in the head. And when Nero went to protect, he shot Nero in the head. And all my brothers thought of at the time was to get out, and they dragged Sean's body out. They fell into the bedroom. The other officers came to their defense. They couldn't get Nero, so Nero was left in the attic with the murderer. And they brought Sean to the hospital, and the doctors at Cape Cod Hospital, including my own fiance, worked on him, and it was just devastating. So they couldn't save him. Meanwhile, we were at the house trying to get the shooter,
Yeah.
and SWAT teams and helicopters, and you see the heroism of our brothers and sisters. They came from everywhere. People can still say they smell the engines, the smell of tires, like everybody came. But it took us 3 hours to get the shooter to give up.
Right.
He texted his girlfriend, "I just killed a cop,"
Oh, God.
you know. And we got him out. And when he came out, you know, there was probably 50 guns pointed at him, including my own.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can imagine what we were thinking, but we took him into custody and brought him to the police station. And the next job was to find Nero, and we did. And the SWAT team carried Nero out. And he was still alive, and he was swallowing his blood, trying to live, you know. And all the EMTs and all the paramedics and all the empty ambulances, no one would touch the dog because it was against the law.
Right.
And luckily, we just took him, and a doctor took him in the backseat of a cruiser. And he sat in one of our officers' lap, and they drove him to a vet. And 6 days later, I was there when Nero came walking out of this hospital. I had ordered Sean's cruiser to be brought to the scene, and this skinny dog came out covered with stitches. He wouldn't eat. And when he came out, he saw Sean's cruiser, and he was looking for Sean.
Wow.
And I opened the back seat, and Nero jumped in where he sits, and he was licking Sean's headrest.
Oh. Oh, my God. Ooh.
So that's what I had to live through, and that's why I ran for office, was to put criminals like that behind bars where they should be, and to fix the Nero law. So a bill had been filed, it never made it, and it was my lifetime mission was to make that bill a
And you
law,
did.
and we did.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, my gosh.
Rep, I want to ask before we move on, because this is emotional stuff, and I get sidetracked easily. You talked about 125. Like, when are we going to hold criminals accountable? We talk about, you know, bringing it back to gun control. Making more laws for guns is not the answer. That's not what's going to
It
keep
is
us
not
safe.
the answer. People think it is. Some people that they're not in the know. I am. And you know, 40 years of policing teaches you a lot. But I'm not sour. I'm not negative. I love life, and I love people and animals. But I do not like bad people. And it takes police officers to be that thin blue line between good and evil. That's what
Right.
that means. Because there is evil, and 125 is evil.
Right.
And there's hundreds more like them
Right.
in the Commonwealth. You know, remember, we're not allowed to tell you someone's record.
Right.
So they're walking around you while you're shopping. Many of them have learned their lesson, let's hope, but some of them have not. And they need to be behind bars. Like Sean Gannon's murderer should have been in prison.
Right.
He strangled his girlfriend, he did so many horrible things, but he kept getting out.
Yep.
And that revolving door justice is real, and that's what's causing this problem. Massachusetts has good gun laws. Remember, when people talk about gun laws, some of them don't realize that in Massachusetts, you need a license. In Massachusetts, you have to do a lot of things.
To get it.
Other states, you don't.
Right.
But in Massachusetts, those laws have been made.
Right.
But there's a feeling we've got to do more. But I think some of that feeling comes from people that don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
All you really knew, the laws are there, the police risk their lives every day doing the enforcement.
Right.
How do I know? I didn't read it,
Right.
I've lived it.
Right.
And if you just focus on that group of violent criminals and don't have the revolving door, because they learn that it is a revolving door, and they get worse.
Right.
So enforce the laws that are there, judges, district attorneys, put them in prison when they're found guilty,
Right.
and keep them there. That's really basic, and I don't want to sound mean, but people like that need to be held accountable.
Right.
And we as the public need to be protected from them. It just happened in New York. A handsome young officer shot to death by a career criminal in New York.
Right.
So the gun law doesn't protect us from those people.
Right.
And that's why I'm against this bill. I'm against gun-free zones. That's not real. And
Right.
I can talk all day about that, but Sean Gannon's murder is an example of what we do wrong. 125 prior charges and still on the street. That shouldn't be happening, and that's not a rare thing. It's common.
Right.
Right afterwards, Michael Chesna was shot and killed in his town of Weymouth. That was all in the same year, and we had 2 Falmouth officers shot, all by career criminals. It's not the gun, in my opinion.
Right.
It's the criminal, and we have to get
And
tougher on that.
I just recently got contacted by a woman who said she was fearful for her life because she knew that her ex-husband was going to get out,
Yes.
and she wanted to know what she could do to protect
Yes.
herself.
So domestic violence was, I was a sexual assault investigator. I understand that, and I understand how the cycle of violence works and restraining orders work and don't work.
Right.
So again, someone that's violent has to be held accountable, and especially repeat offenders. If you focused on that, then we would be all safer, not necessarily making more laws, but people think that's what makes us safer.
Right.
It's really supporting police and letting them do their job, giving them the equipment and the training. And when they do something wrong, hold them accountable.
Right.
Well, a
But
lot
you
of
got to
it
really
is-
stand up for what's right.
Right. And I think a lot of it is derived from emotion. We want to feel safe. Let's do something to feel safe. Well, we're realists. We don't want to feel it. We want to be it. We want to be
Yes, people fear crime, even though they may not be, they shouldn't, but they feel it. And they think that we're enforcing the laws. They don't know that the prisons are half empty in Massachusetts. Half empty.
That blows my mind.
All right? Don't ever think that, boy, we can't enforce the laws because there's not enough room.
Right.
There is room. And not everybody should be in jail. But if you commit a crime with a gun, especially, and you're found guilty, you need to be punished.
And a lot of those charges are dropped from what I heard
They
too.
get dropped or they get plea bargains.
Right.
Yeah, and I hope not anymore, because the average person that makes a mistake learns their lesson
Right.
from the system or just being a good person.
Right.
But evil doesn't.
Right, there's
They
a
actually
difference.
get stronger and worse. And that story of Sean and Nero is real.
Right.
And I'll tell it as long as I live,
Right.
because we can learn from it.
Right.
And that made who you are today. That
It galvanized who I am. Yeah,
Right.
I've always loved my country. I've always loved, law enforcement, the flag. But it made me stronger, and it gave me this position, which is, it's a blessing.
Right.
And I love working with everyone.
Right.
And I know how to keep people safe.
And we need you. We need
Yeah,
you.
and
we
I
need your
probably
education.
know more than the average elected official when it comes to this.
Right.
Right.
Ask me about other stuff, I don't, and I go to them,
But I think it's important too, because that brings a good point, that as a good rep, you sit down and you have a conversation with the experts. If you're not an expert in that field, and I think that's so super important.
Yes.
But we were talking earlier about how, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you can give all the information and the education to the rep, and they can take it and do what they want with it. And sometimes they are, I don't want to say bullied into a corner, but it's true. It's a shame.
Yes.
And this is why we have to vote. We have to. it
People
starts
have
at
to
the-
vote for who they believe in.
Yep.
Do your research. It's so important. Sean Gannon should be here today. You'd love to meet him. So he should be on patrol with Nero. Instead, he's dead
Right.
at age 32. He rests in peace right across from the police station in the cemetery. And Nero is alive, thank God. He lives with the bullet in him. It went through his face, esophagus, trachea, and landed in his shoulder.
We should have had Nero with you, Rev.
Oh, Nero doesn't come out. Yeah,
No?
yeah, not too much, no. I would love that, but Nero has bonded with Sean's widow.
Oh.
Yeah, Dara. So imagine Dara, just 30 years old,
Oh.
and a widow. So we didn't know what to do with Nero
Yeah.
as
Right.
leaders, as the chief and deputy.
Right.
We got to put him back to work, and then we read Sean's will, and it said, if anything happened, to give him to my wife. So Nero stays with Dara, and nobody goes near Dara.
Got it.
Trust me,
I bet.
unless Nero lets them.
Right. So tell us about the Nero stuffy.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
Yeah.
I gotta get one.
yeah. When Nero was shot and Sean died, my fiancee Denise, who's very artsy and she's a nurse, and she tried to save him. And I can tell you to today, the healthcare workers at Cape Cod Hospital, from the CEO Mike Loff to the person that cleans the floors, they feel so horrible that they couldn't save Sean. They take it personal. And so what we did was, Denise developed this
love
little
them.
Nero. It has the Yarmouth Police badge and the thin blue line that we wear over our badges when someone is killed. It has Sean's picture, and it tells Sean's story.
Oh.
And she developed it, and she bought 10 online and gave them to the department, and then we sold 5,000.
Wow. And where
Wow.
does the money go?
The money goes to the Yarmouth Police Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And out back of the Yarmouth Police Station, in the woods, part of the story is Sean and I stood there one day in the woods, and he said, "Deputy, do you think we could maybe cut some trees down and make a place where we can train the dogs?"
Oh.
Because they had to go off Cape to
Yeah.
do it. And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, if we cleared this out, I know we don't have any money, but if we cleared it, we could train the dogs right at the police station."
Oh, I love it.
And then Sean was murdered.
Ugh.
And I told the chief the story, and he said, "We're going to do it."
Oh.
So if you go to Yarmouth Police Station now, there's $1 million building. It's called the Sean Gannon Training Center, where dogs and police from all over Massachusetts, all over the nation come and train.
That's awesome.
And it comes from this, selling these, donating, not tax dollars,
Right.
donation.
That's
Right.
awesome.
So we buried our fallen, we made a law, and we built a building.
That's
love that.
awesome. That is so awesome.
Something good coming out of tragedy.
Yep.
And I learned that from losing my own son.
Yeah.
And that brings us to that, because we need to talk about
Right.
that. We have 4 more minutes,
Yeah.
but that is a
that's
whole...
going to go into the
Yeah.
next show.
Okay.
That we're saving for part 2.
Yeah, all right. We're
gonna
That's
save
not
that
going to
for
be a
part
quick,
2.
let's go. We need to take some time.
I can't thank you enough, though, because I think we need more reps like you. We need more people to stand up and say, I want to make a difference.
Yes.
We need more people to be educated and understand the importance of who they're voting for, understand that their voice matters.
It does.
And you've taught me a lot, and I know when I was at the State House testifying, as scared as I was, when I looked at your face, you always made me feel better, so thank you. So I just get very emotional because it is so, so important to use your voice. And I know this is why we do and work so hard for what we're doing. And when we meet people like yourself, it really truly makes a difference. It makes us smile and makes us know that we're on the right road. to
And
what
I
we
feel
need
the
to do.
same way. When I'm on that committee and you come and testify, that's what it's all about.
Right.
That's democracy, that's lawmaking, that's budgeting. We're so fortunate to live in America and live free. But it comes at a price.
Right.
Right.
And Sean Gannon paid the price.
Right.
And we need to listen to his story.
And never let it stop.
Nope.
And Sean's mother and father, they live with a broken heart, just like I do. And they come with me, and we've made Nero's Law in New Hampshire,
That's awesome.
Rhode Island, and we're going to make it in Connecticut soon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we travel together as parents and go and tell the story.
And you know what, there's more stories out there, and we don't know their names, and we should know them all, because it's so crucial that, it's tragic something like that happens.
Yes.
It's so tragic, but we need to learn from these stories and
Yes.
realize that, 125 should not have happened.
Correct.
should have been in jail
And I know
and
it's going
left.
to happen again.
Right.
We've
And
had
how,
dogs
how
shot
can we
since
change
then.
that? What can we do?
You've got to put the pressure where it belongs, and it doesn't have to be on the legislature. We make laws. I think the laws are there. Maybe you might want to make a couple of more minor ones, but not massive bills. Really focus on what works. It's standing up for law and order, supporting your police, and enforcing the laws that are there. And when someone is found guilty, they need to be held accountable. And sometimes that's being put behind bars, where they learn their lesson, or they're kept until their sentence is done, because we need to be protected.
Right.
I lost one son. I have another son that's a police officer,
Wow.
and I cannot lose another one.
No. Oh, God, no.
Right, right. So what would you say to people who want to use their voices, but they feel like, I don't know what to say. I don't want to bother the rep. I don't want to, I don't have a degree in civics. I don't know what to, what do you say
That's
to
a
those
great
people?
point. Yeah, there's 200 elected officials. I'm so lucky to be one of 200. 160 state reps and 40 senators. So everybody has a rep and everybody has a senator. Some people don't even know who they are. So masslegislature.com, look it up, find out who they are. They're just people like us, and they've been elected to serve.
Right.
So call them, email them. And I've had people say, well, you're the only one that gets back to me. I get people from all over, and I said, no, they'll get back to you, but we're busy.
Right.
So, if they don't
one of
answer,
you.
give them call them again, email
And
them
be
again.
respectful, because I think that's another
Yeah.
thing, too.
There's a lot on our plates.
Yeah.
Like tons of stuff. So be respectful, work with them, and let them know how you feel.
You know something you said to me that stuck with me, and I share it? You called the State House the People's House.
It's the
I
people's
love it.
And I
house.
love that. You were the
Yes.
first person
Oh,
that
yeah.
said that to me, and I thought,
true.
wow. Yeah,
As
maybe
an
people-
adult, make sure anyone, go visit. Come visit me.
Yeah.
I'll show you around. It's the people's house. And we're Massachusetts. I'm a born and raised Massachusetts man. I'm proud of that, because we started America. It was Massachusetts
That's right.
men and women that made America.
Right.
We have to keep it that way.
We do. We absolutely do. So we have another part 2.
Yeah, we
so-
can't let you go yet, but we ran out of time for this episode.
But
right.
thank you for coming. And hold on, we'll be back for part 2. But thank you for
right.
joining Sisters in Arms. If you have any
Yeah.
questions at all, sistersinarms2022@gmail.com. We're always looking for some ideas and any suggestions. And
Yeah,
stay
let's
safe.
cheer,
keep
Rep.
Oh,
vigilant.
yes. Right up. Give it up.
Cheers.
Cheers. God bless.
God bless.